Well, a very, very good Tuesday afternoon to you all, my friends. Ross and the West End Network. Hope you're safe and well. I'm in the broom. Well, it's not really broom cupboard, but I am in the broom cupboard for another edition of Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. Don't forget to check them out. Holly did the show this morning talking about how many points we're going to get coming up. You know, obviously, we're still in the midst of this sort of international break with players starting to come back from international duty. Still got some of the academy players still to play a third game, which is tomorrow for some of them, I believe. I think it's England under 19s are playing tomorrow, I believe, with the likes of Lewis Orford, Finn Herrick and stuff like that. So it's very much going to be a case of starting to welcome players if they can get back as well. You know, Mikel Antonio, you know, with his passport, can he get back? Who knows? Myself and Holly did our members only podcast yesterday talking about West Ham's nice guys. It was a really nice video for a change. And in that we showed my my Christmas decorations, including the teddy bear on the right hand side, which is 8 foot tall, called Bubbles, and as you can see has flags, and we'll be having a Iron Supporting Food Banks QR code on that very, very soon for people walking past. They can donate to the food banks, as my wife is always saying when she walks past and people look at it, she shouts out, we're doing it for charity. But we've got 3 stories as per usual, and let's get into the first one, shall we? Oh, where have I gone? There I am. That's a shame. You almost had a whole episode without me. How unfortunate. International break at the moment. Obviously, players have been playing their sort of second game, particularly the first team, and Mohamed Kudus played. Obviously, still can play despite being suspended for the next 2 games against Newcastle and Arsenal. Back for the Leicester City game, which is good because I think Paqueta's not available because he'll be having his hearing in Brazil on that day. But a late Mohamed Kudus missed penalty for Ghana. It meant that they lost 2-1 against Nigeria on Monday, which has ended their hopes of qualifying for the AFCONs next year. They had a very slim chance of it, but they needed to win the game, but unfortunately they didn't. But in a reasoning behind the loss is because of his shirt number, apparently. That's according to our Ghanaian prophet, who has warned that he needs to change his shirt number for Ghana. Otherwise, his career is at stake. The prophet Clement Kwenzai, the head pastor of the World Light Revive Centre worldwide, believes Ghana's poor form is because of his shirt number. The biggest mistake the coach made was to give Kudus the number 10 shirt. Kudus, return to your 20 shirt right now. Tell the coach you will not wear the number 10 shirt in the next match. Has sort of slight, do you remember Pele Futre and John Moncur vibes? You know, Futre, Pele, Maradona, all 10, not 16. And obviously John, then he stormed out to the Arsenal game, and then John ended up giving him number 10 shirt for a fortnight away in his Portuguese villa. But it seems to be history repeating itself, but it's all down to his shirt number. That's why he's been poor for Ghana and the Ghanaian team in general. So let's talk about Julian Lopetegui. Obviously, Holly spoke about it this morning about in terms of games coming up, how many points we're going to get, and it does seem to be, particularly next 2 games. You know, we've got a tough trip to Newcastle, which I believe is after Newcastle. We've then got a run of 20 games, which won't be affected by the winter break or internationals, something like that. So, you know, we can rest assured nothing's going to be changed for that. It could still be obviously changed for the TV rights though. We know that Newcastle are in a bit of form. They've won their last 3 games. West Ham, we've just got 3 games, won 3 games all season, really. It was fair to say that Julian Lopetegui went into the international break with his job under increasing pressure, and survived the sack, so to speak, over the international break. Few are giving us many hope in terms of getting anything against Newcastle. And then the small matter of Arsenal, having last time they turned up back in February, losing 6-0. So many project potentially two defeats and two heavy defeats in the offering, but it piles more pressure on Lopetegui now. It's been given a potential sack date of the 1st of December, because obviously the Arsenal game's on the 30th, and then we go into a period of maybe slightly more favourable games, which would benefit potentially a new head coach coming in. Why the difference between 2 weeks ago, I don't really understand, but that's what's been said. Clarence Hughes suggested the head coach could be sacked if those defeats against Newcastle and Gunners do transpire. Now, also, there's been a major update from a journalist very close to Tim Steidten. We know that back in April, I think it was, the Stuttgart head coach Sebastian Hoeneß, he emerged as Steidten's one of his top targets. That was according to TalkSport and a couple of other news outlets. Earlier this month, it's claimed that there was concrete interest from a Premier League club for Sebastian in terms of becoming their new head coach. Now, a source close to Tim Steidten in terms of the Sky Sports reporter from Piltenberg, he is reporting that Stuttgart are now extremely concerned about Hoeneß being lured away, so much so they've already getting a replacement lined up. They see it as entirely plausible sooner rather than later in terms of him going, with concrete interest from the Premier League sides. Sean Wheatston, he mentioned how close Steidten and Peltenberg are, and how Steidten has apparently been briefing Peltenberg about what's happening from a managerial perspective. If we believe that, we can only speculate. But, it's been suggested that Hoeneß may want to see this season out potentially. He does a release clause around £5 million, but they already have Matthias Silese from Al Ahly. He is on Stuttgart's list of replacements if Hoeneß leaves the club, whether it is back in the summer that's coming or sooner potentially. Apparently, it's said that Hoeneß is open to taking the next step after this season potentially. I think it's fascinating to see, because we all assumed there was a break, that if anything was going to happen, it was going to happen there. It didn't happen, but then we're assuming that it's going to happen after the next two games, which seems to be a bit strange, a bit of an arse about tit way of doing it. But it is West Ham, as we know. But there's clearly some time frames involved, and I think, again, if there's a defeat against Newcastle and Arsenal, heavy defeats, I think you can't really, that the games haven't been kind in terms of the order of them, but everyone's got to play each other twice, and I think with every loss, it's making that decision maybe slightly easier, in all honesty. I saw a fascinating article. Someone was talking about David Moyes and saying he did have money in the bank in terms of he had the European win, whereas Lopetegui really is very much on thin ice. He hasn't got that sort of back catalogue of success to look back on and draw upon to say, you want to keep me because of A, B, and C in terms of my achievements. He did okay at Wolves. Yes, Sevilla, but Sevilla was 4 or 5 years ago. And not 4 or 5, but you know what I mean, sort of 3 or 4 years ago. And a lot has happened since then. We'll wait and see. But as I said, interesting, the whole Peltenberg stuff, because we know he has ties to Steidten, and you can see someone like Hoeneß being someone who Steidten would want to come in. A real coach, a manager a head coach who works really well with youth team, develops players, has that sort of sporting director relationship already, but it's a baseball cap. I love the fact I love managers who wear baseball caps, particularly in 2024. And he's young as well, which is the total polar opposite to Jules Lopetegui. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in the next couple of weeks, that's for sure. And looking ahead, we've got a month and a bit until Christmas, and then soon enough it will be the January transfer window. We've been linked to a number of players, also being linked with a number of players who are in a different ilk in terms of more dynamic, physically strong central midfielders, which I think we need. And obviously we spoke yesterday about Rodriguez potentially wanting to go back to maybe Real Betis and then looking at the possibility of that happening. It's clear we need some dynamism, some energy in that midfield. Now, there is a possibility, according to Daily Mail, that Sao Paulo midfielder Pablo Maia could come to West Ham, despite a serious thigh injury. We're being linked to all these players who keep being injured. The newspaper suggested today that the Hammers, as well as Arsenal and Fulham, could be the home venue for the 22-year-old midfielder who made his senior debut for Brazil against England earlier this year. He's already made over 100 appearances in the Brazilian Serie A for Sao Paulo, but a thigh injury picked up in May ruled him out of action, and most likely a transfer back in the summer until the new year at the earliest. We know that Brazil is an area we are fishing in. We do have a specific sort of network out there, which was set up by Rob Newman before he departed. The likes of Luis Guilherme, we've been linked to Yuri Alberto. There was Fabrizio Bruno. There was loads of players we were linked with. But maybe Pablo Maia could be someone who could be a bloody good signing for us. I think he'd be really, really good. He's physical. He's not the tallest player in the pitch, but he's strong. He's got a good engine. You don't play for the Brazilian national side unless you got something special about you. And over 100 games, as I said, for Brazil, for Sao Paulo already. So he's 22. So really interesting one. And I think, could be, you think him and Alvarez together could be a real dynamic pairing, and then obviously bring back someone like Freddie Potts next year to add to that list. Could be interesting to see. Could be really interesting to see. And that's it, my friends. As I said, don't forget to check out theseatmybrand.com for the latest news, reviews, and opiniones. We've got some really, really good stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'll keep teasing it, but we're just literally just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and we'll have 2 very good interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, as well as all the other stuff and the fun of the fair leading up to the Newcastle game. We're going to have opposition fan chats, all that type of stuff. Obviously, being a Monday sort of prolongs it a little bit more, but at least we've got our weekend to ourselves. West Ham can't ruin this weekend. Wait till next weekend when we play Arsenal. But until next time, take care. Stay safe, stay warm, stay humble, keep the faith, and come on, you bloody, bloody, bloody irons. Much love.